Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 33%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
The notion of using the language of realism to tell fiction predates the visual form. From panicked radio audiences falling for the War of the Worlds to the sitcom domination of The Office, there is a strong appeal in verisimilitude that suspends disbelief. And while the term mockumentary dates back to the 1960s, the quintessential archetype of that term is a 1984 shoestring budget improv picture about a failing rock band. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gayfesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely Moss.
Hello.
And DemonMama.
Hello.
And this season on the Many Worlds Hypothesis, we are going to be going through a selection of Rob Reiner's filmography. And today we start at the beginning. This is Spinal Tap.
Yo! I have seen a patchwork of Rob Reiner films, and despite knowing a large amount of the most popular quotes from this movie from high school, having them handed to, I've never actually seen the movie until now. And you know what? That was a mistake. This movie is hilarious, and I'm happy that I got to watch it. It was a good. I'm also happy that I got everybody in my house to watch it because we all ended up laughing a lot, which was good.
That probably would have helped my viewing if I was watching it with other people.
Yeah,
I think so.
It is a funny group watch because stuff that gets somebody else, that tickles somebody else, will then get you by proxy. But Can I say my favorite line in the movie, which is not anybody else's favorite line in the movie?
Sure.
Everybody always does this one goes to 11.
Yeah,
People
no,
do none more black, But my favorite line is when Ian is arguing with the hotel clerk and goes, "Yeah, can I talk to somebody else other than this old twisted fruit?" And then the guy responds by, "I am exactly as God made me." It is I just laughed so hard.
I think also underrated is in that same scene where Ian is like, "How am I going to fit 14 people in a king bed?" And the guy says, "Oh, don't tempt me, sir."
That whole scene is just so God tier. I was laughing. Oh my God. There's so many scenes in this movie that I was like, I think I have to shout out my favorite part of this movie is the scene choreography. Not literally the dancing choreography, but the way that they handle everybody moving through every space, the blocking and the crowded shots. It is just, oh my God, it turns out so good in so many moments. And we'll get into that, I'm sure. But that's my initial thoughts on the movie.
All right, Moss, what are your first thoughts?
My overall impression of this movie is okay, I do think it would have been better to watch in a group setting because on my own, I was like, this is mildly to moderately amusing. I don't think I laughed at any point. I might have gotten a couple times where I was like, ha, the equivalent of ha, that's great. But I appreciated it more the second time. So I think that this is one that I'll revisit. And I think the thing that I liked the best about it was reading Reddit threads about it afterwards. Because the reflection of other people's enjoyment really kind of brought it fully in. I'm like, yeah, just watching it, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's silly. It's clearly over the top. And then when I started thinking about the questions that I had, when I was like, okay, so that's Rob Reiner, who's the documentary guy. Okay, cool. And then I'm like, is this entire script, is this whole thing improvised? Yes. Yep. Answer, yes. So the whole thing completely improvised. So it's I'm coming to appreciate it more the more I'm like, yeah, this is a cult classic for sure.
It's one of those things where I think it almost is more important in terms of its place in film history. Yes. and watching it from that lens of film studies and understanding certain things, because a good example, and I'm sure Rob Reiner is dancing in heaven over this comparison, but Citizen Kane. If you just watch Citizen Kane without any of their prerequisite knowledge about the state of film at the time and the revolutionary new filming techniques that were made for that film, it's kind of boring. And if you took somebody who had grown up on The Office and had no idea that, Spinal Tap was the influential one, they'd probably watch and go, oh, this isn't as funny as The Office.
Yeah.
So it's understanding its place in film history, I think, is a big one. It's also interesting that we're about as far out now from the release of This Is Spinal Tap as This Is Spinal Tap was to the release of Citizen Kane. So there you go. There's my
wow. Okay, that's a tidbit.
Yeah,
that's one of those
wild.
like the Cleopatra versus the pyramids. Like they were ancient to her already, and they're further back to her than she is to us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or that the Harry Plinkett Star Trek Generations review came out closer to the release of Star Trek Generations than to today.
Yeah.
So.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly appreciating it from that lens. I think a lot of the jokes fell flat for me on my solo watch. The first time I watched this, like I was either late teens, early 20s, was watching it with a friend of mine who he had grown up with it. His childhood dachshund was named Stumpy Joe, which as soon as they said that the one of the drummers' names was Stumpy Joe, I just looked over and I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. And his dad was a musician, so that was a big part of their family. And he was laughing at everything, and that prompted more of my laughs in that viewing. But the fucking Stonehenge thing with when they get the dwarves out to dance around the 2 foot, that's fucking gets me.
It's so good. Oh my god, the visuals in that scene are so good, and like the fact that they play the scene straight up to that point, like it's like this is just a normal performance, and none of them know that it's going to be a tiny. Oh my god, the Stonehenge coming down like slowly and just
the framing of it, where at first it comes down, it's like, oh, that looks like it. Oh no, as it gets further, it's like, oh, it's that small.
It's oh my god, it's so good. I think generally most comedies, and this is just me, but I think most comedies are more enjoyable in a room like of other viewers, largely because of that effect. Like the fact that somebody else getting like set off by something can be funny in and of itself and telling. And so yeah, I definitely would recommend a group viewing of this movie. Although, you know, it's once you know the jokes, it's hard to go back and watch it again. But you never know. But it was great. There's like a ton of musician humor. I watched with my partner who comes from a very music family, and they were like laughing the whole time at a lot of different stuff from like on the music production side of things. It's actually really funny. After watching this movie, I watched it last night with everybody, and I actually had a dream that was directly influenced by the scene where they're trying to get to stage from backstage.
Oh yeah.
And it was just, what an iconic scene. like they're all hyped up and like,
yeah, like so many musicians have been like, oh yeah, no, we've all been in venues like that. We've all struggled to find our way to the stage from the back from the back rooms.
Someone on Reddit was like, as a person who sets up the guitar tech stuff, I have a brightly colored gaffer tape that I put on the floor from the dressing room to the stage so that we don't have this problem.
That's a good idea.
Just follow the lines.
Yeah.
I also really love, this is like a total departure from what we're talking about right now, but this is something I have to bring up. I love the Yoko Ono character, partially because like they condense all of the like pop myth and stories and urban legends and everything and the real things. All of them have been condensed into like a character, but then also you just see that like, oh yes, as like frustrating and irritating as like all of the like fake artisticness and like pseudo spiritual nonsense that this character brings to the table, and as much as they interrupt certain parts of it, there is no way that this band is actually meaningfully impeded by the presence of the Yoko Ono character, which is like, there's a cultural, like for a long time there was this like basically all of the blame of like the fall of the Beatles was like put on Yoko Ono by pop culture, partially because there's like a lot of we'll just say, to be charitable to both sides, could be perceived as very annoying public performances and statements by Yoko Ono that like made her an easily hateable individual. But it's just like, nah, this band is a mess. Everything about them is a mess. It's not like this one girlfriend is truly the like death of the band. It's not.
The
like they're
Stonehenge
cooked.
fuck up was on all of the guys. Like that she had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, like the fact they were fighting about an unrelated thing before that is like, it's just unconnected. Like
she does like a decent job. Like they have a venue fall through and she hooks something else up. Like she does what she's supposed to do in that role.
Sure. I mean, the follow-up venues that she gets are hilariously
The Air Force bases.
The Air Force Base in Washington is really, really funny and just a total mismatch. And it is like, there's so many good, like, out of left field jokes in this one. And the radio with the air traffic with that setup,
the radio transmission was so good,
where at one point he's just like, oh yeah, this lets me play wirelessly, and it's like, oh cool, and then it's just like they're just like, and then it just keeps happening. It's so good. Even when you come back to the band, it's like it starts again, and it's just like, oh my god.
I used to have, back in the day, like my first computer, the speakers for it were always picking up just very faintly the local oldies station. And it was only like in quiet moments when I would hear just like a little soft KBSG coming out of it. But yeah, so that's definitely relatable.
Yeah, there's like the whole, like, especially radio now. Oh my god, it's like it's not even usable in a lot of cases, but it's just very. It was so good. Yeah, I just like that. I like the way that they use the Yoko Ono character, and that like the narrative undermines this idea that like one like lady can really be blamed for the band, even if she's the most uncharitably interpreted, like, annoying person that you can have.
There's a lot of like surprising names in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like the mime waiters were Dana Carvey and Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
And they're just in it for like 5 seconds.
Mine
Fran Drescher.
money.
I remember being surprised that Fran Drescher was in this when I first saw it. Actually, I think I seem to remember her having a larger role than she did. I guess she was just in that early stuff. But for some reason, my memory of seeing it was that she was in all of it. But yeah.
When I got to the end and I was like, oh my God, it's Chuck.
Mhm.
It's Chuck from Better Call Saul.
Yeah, Michael McKean.
I was like, I couldn't even tell with his hair.
Mm-hmm.
Friggin'
Oh my God.
Fred Willard.
Oh yeah, Fred Willard was the Air Force Base guy.
Yeah.
Paul Schaefer was the incompetent promoter, the balding one, that got them the signing at the record store that nobody showed up for.
I think he's my favorite character. I think that guy, he might be he was only in it for like a grand total of 2 minutes, but he might be my favorite guy.
Artie Pfafter or whatever.
Yeah.
Fufkin. Artie Fufkin. He said it 8 million times.
He said it 8 million times and I still couldn't remember it. And I love the part where he's like, just kick my ass. Just kick my ass. Come on, kick my ass.
I'm not asking. I'm telling with this.
Yeah, it's a lot of good jokes. Well, it's a funny movie.
It's the pacing of this movie is perfect. The length is perfect. None of the jokes overstay their welcome. I know that this is a line that's said a lot. Like, you couldn't make this movie today is said for like Blazing Saddles is obviously the most famous example of that. But really, this type of movie is not really made today. This type of comedy is no longer made. You don't see this type of comedy. Like, The Office is the closest thing, and that was a like serialized TV show, or syndicated. I can't remember the right word, but it's a big long TV show. Like, the idea of a tightly paced, totally fresh idea, mockumentary style. I don't know. The closest movie I can even think of that reminds me of the mood and tone and presentation of this movie is, weirdly enough, Uncut Gems. And even that is it's very different in so many ways. I don't know. I think
it's too, like, the 80s was that kind of era of like, you had the big hair metal bands and you had a lot of like, rock and roll documentaries, going around touring with bands and kind of like lionizing them, making them larger than life. And this was taking the piss out of those.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea for the film was Michael McKean and Christopher Guest. They were musicians. They were comedy musicians working together on stuff, and they just kind of developed the characters and worked with Rob Reiner to develop it into a film. But like, I think they had even like developed it originally as like a TV pilot first, and then spun it off into a movie. And yeah, no, they were were obviously influenced by just that era of musician, and that's what they were satirizing. And so, like, yeah, obviously satire is usually topical, which means that you can't make it later.
Yeah, it's in its context. But I also feel like it's unique because they play it so straight. Like the characters are not self-aware of how ridiculous they are. And like, so as a comedy, I like just watched White Chicks. There is a world of difference between like the flavor of comedy where it's like, we know we're doing comedy for comedy's sake versus like the characters themselves take everything dead serious.
Yeah, that is a trend of like the current comedy moment of like the hyper self-awareness. Like it's almost like the movie is ashamed of being a comedy, and this movie is not even a little bit. It's just like it's so in its element, and I don't know. I appreciate that. I don't know. I think a good satire can be timeless in its presentation, and I think this is one of them. Like maybe I guess it is like less funny if you don't know anything about like the Beatles. This movie's funny in that it is like it's like, oh, what if the Beatles became like a hair metal band? But it is like the Beatles did do that. Like they went through a lot of eras as a band, and they stuck together like a comparatively very long time. And so you see, like, I love the little like flashbacks you get where it's like they go back to I was thinking of Listen to the Flower People, and it's just like how is this the same band? And then there's like the one where they're like in the 50s TV performance with the drummer who's got the big geek glasses. It's just like the same. This band is like they're trend chasers, and yet also it's like you also see like the evolution of their band, and they also have the same like tendency through all of them to just write really dumb as shit lyrics.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was like, I loved the lyrics in this movie. Big Bottom and Sex Farm particularly stand out to me.
Sex Farm was really
is that
funny.
part scripted or is that also improv?
They wrote the songs.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Michael McKean and Christopher Guest wrote the songs.
That's so
actually,
perfect.
I think Harry Shearer might have wrote some of them too. But yeah, no, they weren't making those up on the spot. They did write the songs before they performed them. Yeah.
I would like to just read off the lyrics for Big Bottom real quick because I just think it would be perfect. Verse 1, the bigger the cushion, the sweeter the pushin'. That's what I said. The looser the waistband, the deeper the quicksand. Or so I have read. My baby fits me like a flesh tuxedo. I'd like to sink her with my pink torpedo. But Big Bottom, talk about bum cakes. My girl's got 'em. Big Bottom drive me out of my mind. How could I leave this behind? And of course, my love gun's loaded. She's in my sights. My big game is waiting there inside her tights. Oh my God. Just wow. They couldn't do it better. Sex Farm, of course, also incredible. Maybe the most on the nose joke in the entire movie is when they have the guy pontificating about the depth of sex politics in Sex Farm. And then it just kind of like trails off into being like, it's like sex, but on a farm.
Yeah.
Also, like if you're not paying close attention to the lyrics, I don't know, I'm sure you probably picked it up, but in Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight, the line, you're sweet, but you're just 4 feet and you still got your baby teeth, which is no, I think that's brilliant because that was, it is horrifying. That's what all of those rockers were doing back then.
Yes.
They were all statutory rapists. They were all doing that. And the film just kind of casually just throws it in there because that's who they were. That was that lifestyle. That's who those people were. They were awful.
Yeah, it fits in as casually as them doing cocaine or like when David says like, I'm sedated right now. I'm having this reaction. I'm sedated. Like, oh, you're on heroin. Like, it's like subtle, those things that you would need to pick up in the background.
Yeah, it's I don't know. What a cacophony. I think that's one of the things I love the most about this movie is the diner scene where the Stonehenge goes wrong. Doubly, yeah. The just like constant crosstalk and the constant like the just chaos of half of the scenes in this movie. It gives it such a perfect organic mess of a feel, and I love it. I love how well they do it, and the fact that like almost every single scene in the movie is like not only is it like crowded on the camera, like it's clearly they're going for this like very handheld camera in your face. We don't have enough time to set up. We're just grabbing what we can get as best as we can. But also like there's always tons of like random other people that are just there, the like groupies and whatever, and just, you know, some random guy who's working with the band that you never see again. It's just like they're crammed into every scene. It leads to such a noisy mess of a picture, and I love that. I love that it just reflects like the state of the band and the state of the industry and the state of music. It's great. It's great.
It's also really tight. Like I think that conveys that like sense of intimacy within a band, and like that you're all crammed in together, and so small conflicts and resentments start to build up. And even like the interview between they're interviewing Janine and David, and they start trailing off about like there's such love, they're so similar, Nigel and Janine, and then but it's clear that it's very clear that there's resentment from one side of that relationship.
Yeah. Oh my God. The change in her expression when he says that, when he's like, yeah, they're just so similar. And it's like very clear that like Nigel is in love with David. Like he's like, we're more than brothers, you know, we're more than friends. And like, he's mad every time she appears because it's like, that's my boyfriend. And it's just like, they can't say it. There's this like, the movie is maybe one of the most like consistent themes throughout the movie is this like homosociality. I don't know if that's the right term, but like this idea that it's like, these guys are doing everything for other guys. They're like homophobic and defensive about their masculinity in a really weird way, but everything they do is for other guys. It is to get the attention of guys. Even when they're talking about girls, they're doing it as a part of their persona. The part where the director of the film goes like, your audience is mostly young men, and then they talk about how like, oh well, you know, there's this fulfilling, you know, we're trying to, you know, they want to see themselves in us, and then they're like talking about like, oh, we're plus it doesn't you know help that we've got these giant armadillos in our pants, you know, it scares off the ladies. Like, it's literally like, it's the perfect example of that kind of like guys posturing as like sex symbols for other men who want to imagine themselves as sex symbols. The psychology of that's presented in this film is maybe the most consistent through the film theme that is like, I don't know, that I think they do a perfect job of it. They capture it like pristinely. And I think it is summed up in the relationship between David and Nigel, which is like, clearly these guys are like soulmates in a way that they are incapable of acknowledging and seeing and talking about.
Yeah, it's like homoerotic, but also overtly homophobic. Like the character Ian, I think 3 separate times I was
He's
like,
very
damn,
homophobic.
that was just homophobia right there. Dang.
Yeah. He's super homophobic. He's super racist.
Sexist too.
And super sexist.
Super sexist.
Yeah. It's also so funny the way that like the thing that the company fixates on as like the sexism is like their album cover and not literally everything else about them. It's the like performative capitalist, like, oh, well, you know, that might offend some people at Kmart, which was a really, really
Sears
funny
and Kmart,
name. Sears and Kmart. That was wild. I actually worked at a Kmart. That was my first job ever. And it was like one of the last Kmarts holding on to life in the country. And I can tell you that was an experience. It was like working in the world's worst museum in pretty much every way that you can imagine. It was like the thing belonged in a museum. And it's just funny to imagine it being quoted as like an important point of like sales for anything.
I also think it's very funny, the idea that the actress who played Bobby Fleckman is like solely responsible, because of the script being improvised, solely responsible for the mental image in my head of what the album cover was supposed to look like.
You know, I was actually surprised that they didn't show it in there, because I have a mental image in my head of what the album cover looks like. And I looked online and no, they never made the image. Like I've seen people, there's like people have made mock-ups, but like, no, there was never an official Smell the Glove album cover image. It's just black. It painted a pretty vivid picture. I can see it. I imagine it being shot on like an infinity cove and like with like a gray background it's very vivid.
Very vivid. Yeah. And I also really love the like follow-up scene to that. That's like, oh, it's because, you know, it's a man's hand, you know, and she's the victim, you know, but if you were the victim, it would, you know, and they're like, oh, yeah, it kind of like it inverts it. I see. Yeah. And it's just like none of them know what they're saying. Like, it's like, okay.
It's a fine line between clever and stupid.
Yeah.
It was so fucking good.
Can I real quick just say my favorite joke in the entire movie, I think? Maybe
Sure.
I said that already. I think I said my favorite line, but I think my favorite like just outright joke is, so throughout the movie they keep talking about the drummers, and they interview the drummer in the bathtub, and he's like, you know, if I didn't have rock and roll, at least I'd have sex and drugs. And like he's just this very like oh, whatever, maybe I'll die, maybe I won't, or whatever. And then right at the very tail end of the movie, they go to do like the second to last performance, and he explodes on stage. He just spontaneously combusts, and then they
just cut to Japan.
Hard cut to Japan, where they have a new drummer who also explodes. He also explodes.
I missed that. If he exploded too.
He explodes at the very end of the song. And I was just like, I was earlier on when they first talk about it, I was like, I thought they were going to show us the guy exploding and leaving behind a globule and or stain. And they didn't. They held it all the way to the end to do two back to back. It was so perfect. Oh man, that made me laugh so fucking hard.
I think several things in this were like homage to other things happening, like the cocoon not opening. I think was like a direct reference to something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that whole sequence was great. Taking out the blowtorch to try and open it.
He's like hammering on it right behind the dude's head. Like
everything about like the timing of it. That is one of the scenes that I was most thinking of when I was thinking of just how like the blocking and choreography of movement of all of the characters and cameras, it works so perfectly. You see him getting out, and you just barely see in the background the other people getting back into their shell, and then he gets out there and he's like, yeah, oh no, and then immediately tries to go back in and gets closed in halfway. All of it, like that was another one where I was just laughing so hard at that scene. What an absolute awesome scene. What was the song they were singing in that one? I don't remember.
That was Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight.
That was Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight. Okay.
They open and close the movie with
Intravenous to Milo. From the album Intravenous to Milo.
That's a clever title. I'm sorry.
It is. It's great. I like it.
It reminds me of my old guild in World of Warcraft, the Clan of Redundancy Clan.
It's so good. And like there's like the scene where they're reading off the reviews, and I do think that the like heavily improvised format works super well there when the director is reading off like the negative reviews about their albums, and like they all can't help but laugh. Like they can't say that, and like the actors are clearly laughing.
You can't say that.
Where'd they print that? Where'd that appear? So this movie, they did their best to take every like the first take wherever possible. So they didn't do a lot of redos. One redo that they did apparently was the scene where Nigel is gently playing on the piano.
Yeah.
And Rob Reiner's like, oh, what's the name of this one? He's like, this one's Lick My Pump. Apparently Rob Reiner fucking lost it. So they did have to take a second take of that scene.
Lick My Love Pump, I think it is, right? Yeah.
And it's just this nice, pretty piano piece.
Yeah. He's like, it's
part of a trilogy.
in D minor. It evokes, it's like you immediately start weeping, Lick My Pump. Like fucking great.
A total incapability for like self-awareness at any point by the musicians. They're just totally in their own world, and they're only really capable of, like I said, doing those really blunt, like stupid titles that give me some money. Costuming, obviously incredible. I love the fact that they're able to like just weave in a shoestring budget into a band running on a shoestring budget. The fact that half the movie is them getting shows canceled is an incredible choice for a movie that's about a documentary about a band. It's awesome.
It also helps the extras budget when every show they go to has a further and further dwindling audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the show gets smaller and smaller. Yeah.
It's a good touch. Like you start at the beginning with going like, oh, they're doing all right. Like it's fine. And like even hearing the numbers, it doesn't quite hit like until they're in that like second or the third to last show before they do the Air Force Base, where it's just, oh no, I think that's the second to last show, right?
The last one, yeah.
Yeah, which that one's just where it's like, oh, total devastation. But the one right before the Air Force Base debacle, if I'm remembering correctly, there's just like, you see the audience like a few times, and they're all just like a handful of people clustered at the front. And like, obviously the zoo and puppet show is just no one's there for it. They're all hating it. They're like actively, in opposition.
Well, that was their Jazz Odyssey.
The last minute,
so.
like, we don't have a set. Okay, Jazz Odyssey.
Nigel owns all these songs we can't play.
Also like that the bassist and the keyboard player are like barely characters. Like they try to give you the like bassist guy, but he's just like, I'm kind of like, lukewarm water.
Yeah.
He kind of feels like he's the smartest one in the group, but he's also like so laid back that he's not going to go and take active control and like actually try to fix shit for everyone. And then the keyboardist Viv is just insane.
His brain is gone. He's like
he's but I actually, you know what, my favorite line, not funniest line, but I think my favorite line was from him, and it was quite exciting, this computer magic.
I think I've destroyed about 5 galaxies.
I like Derek's at the end of this really tense scene where Ian quits and like everybody's cussing at each other and yelling and everything. And Derek's like, so practical question, are we going to play Stonehenge? No, we're not fucking playing Stonehenge. Hilarious.
It is good.
Hundreds of years before the dawn of history.
Also, that scene like speaks to something you were saying earlier, Moss, about like the intimacy, the weird intimacy. Like that's the scene where David is arguing with Janine about the sweater, the like goofy looking planet sweater. And it's like they're literally like 5 feet away from the band. Like he's like, I don't want to go back there. And it's like they can see him wearing it from where they're at. He's like, I just want to check out the new game, And it's just like they're just fighting in front of the group. There's no privacy at any moment ever.
Mm-hmm.
Also, random makeup decision that is very funny is I love that throughout the movie, like all of the characters from show to show, you'll see them have like herpes outbreaks, like that just appear and disappear.
I have that as a specific note that it was both of them. It was David and Nigel. They both had an outbreak at the same time on their mouths. And I guess the implication is they've hooked up with the same groupie.
Or like I wouldn't say this movie is like the deepest movie ever, but it makes up for it not having, I mean, it's just a comedy. It's not like diving into the world's deepest issues, but it is like, it has a depth of appreciation and production value and ingenuity in presentation that I think like really just makes it shine.
I wanted to see what else Christopher Guest had done, because I don't know, there was something about him that felt very familiar, but like I was looking through his IMDb and I'm like, it's not standing out to me. And then I realized he was Count Rugen in Princess Bride.
Oh.
Which we're going to be doing next.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Which means that not only do the numbers go to 11, but the fingers go to 6.
That's true. I really thought for a second that the keyboardist was the albino.
That's what I thought too. I had the same thought.
It's not the same. Like, no.
They've got the same crazy eye look to them. So
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
That's surprising. You can definitely see some of the through lines in direction and joke writing and whatnot that go from this movie to Princess Bride. But I am looking forward to that because they are very different movies. I don't know. I'm so excited for Princess Bride. Is that what we're doing next or no?
I think it's further in.
No, I think that's third. I have a list. Stand By Me is what we're doing next.
Stand By Me. Oh, yes. I feel like this is just such a great start to this arc of the Rob Reiner arc. I feel like it's inspiring and I'm excited to do the rest of the movies.
This is a change from what we're usually doing on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's nice to change things up. It's nice to get about, because a lot of his movies, I mean, sure, he's doing fantasy stuff with Princess Bride, but a lot of his movies are just kind of like general fiction. I usually go more for, sci-fi and fantasy stuff myself. That's my personal preference,
And there's nothing serialized about this. I mean, we will do This Is Spinal Tap 2 at the end of this.
That'll be the last one. That's his last film. So that we're definitely bookending with mockumentaries. But,
I have to give Rob Reiner some credit. Man made a lot of cultural touch points like that really stuck in the like general culture. Obviously, we talked about the mockumentary stuff already. The Princess Bride is just like one of the most widely beloved films. It's incredibly well respected, and it also has like an amazing level of cultural penetration. So many people are just like, oh yeah, that's the one movie that you you can say, and pretty much everybody will be like, oh, I saw it at some point.
I have my whole idea for a Muppet cast for the Princess Bride.
God, that would it would work so well. A Muppet Princess Bride would be so good. Also, though, the bucket list is one of the movies on our list, right? And that term, bucket list, is largely attributed to the movie, which people have had the idea of like a checklist before you die, like things you want to do with your life before you die. But the term bucket list was like basically not really recorded as being used colloquially. And now it's literally everywhere, even to this day. People say, oh yeah, check that off my bucket list. Like
one of my favorite jokes from Easy A is when Stanley Tucci's character says, after we watch the bucket list, let's watch the bucket list off our bucket list.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, I don't know, most people don't get to have that many like deep and wide cultural impacts like to that degree. I don't know, it's wild. Because I mean, obviously there's all kinds of artists who have like a huge cultural presence, but very few that are like as widespread and popular, and that people don't even know that the bucket list term came from the bucket list necessarily. I don't know, it's wild to me. But yeah it's just a thing that I was thinking of.
This is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen anyone do with a violin.
Yeah.
Rubbing it against the guitar.
Oh, and then tuning it halfway through.
Yeah, he's like changing the tune, and he like just like rubs it on the front, and like he's also playing another guitar with his foot, like just open strings, like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Also, during the Big Bottom, all of the guitarists are playing the bass guitar, which is really funny.
Okay,
just visually, there's so many like music crimes that occur in this movie.
I don't understand the point of a double-necked guitar in the first place, but what are you doing with a double-necked bass?
Well, yeah, it's completely like, it's the artifice, the show.
They're the same four strings, like, yeah.
I do know some double necks are like a combination, the bass and regular guitar, so...
Sure. But this was too, and I think the only thing is you could be like, okay, there's a different tuning, but just have a drop tuner. I don't know, it's just over the top is all I'm saying.
The double neck guitar has always been like a show tool, you know, it's to show off how cool it is. And like,
it's like the collection of guitars. They're just there to be there at a certain point.
They're there to like, they're static.
Don't even look at this one. Don't point at it. You've seen enough of that one. Yeah,
there's like the double neck guitar is funny because like a lot of the like famous performances of like the double neck guitar is like super technically advanced. You know, you're doing like shredding, you know, where you're needing to switch really quickly between two and show off that you're doing that. And there's just no showing off. It's just, we have a double neck guitar, which is kind of like, again, it just kind of hammers on that recurring piece of this band's character of just like, they are all show all the time. They're obsessed with like the perception of it, more even like they're just the distilled version of like the stereotype of a rock star, of just being like all show and no substance.
And it obviously was working for them at one point. Like they said in the movie, like, oh yeah, they used to be selling out to like 30,000 seats and now they're booking 1,500 seat venues. So it's like, it's like that waning, like the culture has kind of moved past it in a way. Yeah. Like they say, this is 1982. We don't have this attitude anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they have like the limo driver who's, you know, talking about how it's like, you know, I'd never say it to these guys, but come on, it's a fad. It's like, they think it's going to be forever, but it's dying. And and like he's just one guy with his opinion, but that's kind of what the film is.
Yeah. And it is kind of like, you know, if your entire personality and persona and public presence is being the hot new thing, and then the hot new thing moves to some other hot new thing, like,
and you're in your 40s,
and you're like, they don't know how to like connect anymore, and like, you know, they could pull off bandwagoning, you know, in the 50s and 60s, but it's like they're not in touch anymore. They don't have anything to fall back on, and it's just like, I
have not seen Spinal Tap 2 yet, but the idea that at this point, this film, in the first film, they're already kind of aging rock stars, like they're talking about how they're in their 40s now and they can't keep doing this. And now there's a movie that came out like last year?
Yeah, I think it was 25.
Yeah. So they're really going to be aging rock stars then. I mean, even
that'll be interesting.
Who's the rock star who like the joke was that like it was going to be him and Betty White were the last humans alive? Keith Richards.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the joke. Yeah, Keith Richards. He's still alive?
I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
Damn.
So there you go. Study that man's body for science. He's had so many substances in him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about this movie. I am excited for the rest of the Rob Reiner movies. I actually will admit, I didn't know that there was a Spinal Tap 2 until we started talking about the Rob Reiner filmography. So I missed out that it happened last year.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild. Yeah.
Just like the dry, sardonic humor, I appreciate it as a genre. I am hoping that that remains a through line. And I also understand why it fell out and like we didn't hear about Spinal Tap 2 because it's like that's
also,
not really what this moment is about.
I mean, everybody's been doing legacy sequels and sequels 30 years after the fact. So that
we're getting Spaceballs too.
That's true.
Supposedly.
Yeah, well, no, we're getting Spaceballs too. That is absolutely happening, and I have hopes for that. Like, I feel like Spaceballs is definitely the right vehicle to. Hey, we're talking about a satire that is, satirizing. It was satirizing the sci-fi movies of the day, but like really doing a Spaceballs 2, they could just satirize franchise media as a whole and the Marvelification of everything. I think they could do a really good job.
I truly hope they can, because I would love for it to be good. I love Spaceballs. And I want it to be as, don't hold back at all. Just hit us with it all. Make it as ridiculous and goofy and really, really the movie, the state of movies right now, it needs it. It needs a real harsh satire that doesn't hold back at all.
Yeah, I hope that the studio doesn't butt in too much because, I mean, I was just thinking about Blazing Saddles and like, that whole thing of like, you can't make this movie nowadays. Like, because there's so much interference on the part of the executives who are like, they ruin things, right? Like people are like, oh, the second season of House of the Dragon sucks. Well, sorry, they cut it 2 episodes short because the executives wanted to, what the fuck ever reasons they had, but like they're intruding on these creative decisions. And sometimes you just need to let a director make their creative decisions because everybody fucking loves Spaceballs. Everybody fucking loves Blazing Saddles. Like just let the man do his job.
Well, I mean, also there's the other aspect of just like movies aren't made in that way on like the approach to making movies is just completely different from the bottom up now. A lot of these like comedies of that era were like, they were in like mid-budget, which just like a mid-budget movie is like, it's very rare right now. You have like really small budget movies, then you have just enormous, endless, tentpole films. And like the mid-budget movie is very rare. Okay, so an example of like a really weird movie is, Megalopolis. Like that movie, and that wasn't even a mid-budget movie, but by comparison to like the tent poles, it kind of was. But that movie was a total fluke. A legacy, incredibly established filmmaker dumps his entire life's fortune into a movie that is just really weird, that is really off-putting to a lot of people. I liked it a lot.
It made back 1/10 of its budget.
Yeah, there was no way it was going to be like a financial success. He knew that it was going to be like that. And it was just like, well, like there's so little risk taking in films now that like seeing something like that is just not as common as seeing something like, Spaceballs or whatever, where it's like, okay, this is a movie that has like a reasonable budget and is doing lots of gags and goofs and set building and costumes and whatnot with what it has. You just don't see that kind of filmmaking anymore right now because of the way that the industry has moved. And not to mention, what you were saying about like the intervening of executives, which, dear God, isn't that just like the story of everything right now?
Yeah. You know how to run a business and you don't care about the art because the whole point of this thing is to make money.
Apparently Netflix is now telling films that it's producing, and it's telling the writers to make sure that they restate the plot of the movie like 4 times because they know people are second screening the whole thing. And it's
God, the second screen.
That's bleak.
It is so bleak. The second screen experience timeline it tempts me into misanthropy to the most degree of just like, oh no, like every movie has to have this like a horrible restating of everything. And it's just like, I don't know, you see it so much. Like I'm thinking of just like these movies like, oh my God, Rebel Moon, which is like, was a movie that I thought of that just falls into that so bad, where it's like literally everything has to be like a character looking directly at the screen with a loud sound. And then it goes, here's what is happening now. And then it's like, okay, now you can look back at your phone.
I don't think Rebel Moon was made specifically with the second screening experience in mind, because I don't think Zack Snyder is that kind of a director. I think Zack Snyder has a really solid visual style and absolutely no writing chops whatsoever. And like this was what he could do.
Yeah, it's convergent evolution.
It's all style, no substance. It's like, this is what he thinks is deep, but he's not a deep person. So that's all he could produce.
Yeah, he happens to produce movies that work for the second screen experience because of their like Yeah, maybe that's a fair. That's fair. I can take that. That's fair. Yeah, I do doom out a bit at the second screen phenomenon and the movies that are like targeting that specifically. It's just like, I don't know. How can you expect to have any art whatsoever if it's being cut down before it even enters the public by the need to be like, we're going to anticipate people won't pay attention or give a shit about this.
Yeah.
I also think that Zack Snyder's like kind of a bad example for that because he has so famously like struggled with studios cutting down his vision.
That is true. That's fair. All right, I'll rescind my critique.
I have a complicated, obviously we've kind of moved on from Spinal Tap, but
that's fine.
In defense of Zack Snyder, I have a complicated view of the man. I think he's not very intellectually curious, but I think he has a phenomenal visual style. I think he knows how to make action look really cool. And I think given the right material, he can produce a fucking solid movie. Like, I think 300 is a good movie, and it's a fascist movie, but because it was written by a fascist and directed by somebody who has a very fascist aesthetic, I do not think Zack Snyder's a fascist, but yeah. I think his filmmaking style has that aesthetic. I think that worked perfectly. Yeah. But then when he adapts Watchmen and just has all of their action look super cool and everything, it's like, okay, you don't understand
You're not getting the subject material. Yeah. All right, that's fair. I can take that. I accept your defense of Zack Snyder in this. I always say his name wrong, but yeah. All I'll say is that I have there's a great sadness that weighs on my heart whenever I hear about the second screen experience, and I have oh god, actually I remember a second screen experience that happened with I saw the TV glow and I almost lost my goddamn mind. I had to control myself because
that's crazy.
There were like a group of people next to us who were on their phones the entire time, and then at the end we're just like loudly being like, I don't get it. So like,
you didn't fucking watch it.
I'm just like, oh,
you didn't watch the movie. Oh man,
I'm like, you have to.
I'm offended deeply.
I know it was terrible.
That's transphobia.
It is.
Second screening that movie is transphobia.
Yeah, you've done a hostility to my people. Yeah,
it's a macroaggression.
Yeah, it's bad. But I just have to hope that somehow the fever will pass, that it will break, that like the second screen movies won't work even for the second screeners, But who knows? It's hard to say right now.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think that probably about wraps up our talk on Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Next up, we will be doing Stand By Me, the Stephen King classic. Until then, I've been Gayfish.
I have been Moss.
And I have been DemonMama.
And we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.